All right, is this thing on? Hello, what is up, everybody? Shout out to everybody who's watching this live. Shout out to everybody who watches this afterwards. This is House of the Dragon Season 1 breakdown. I've already broke down every single episode. I've already live streamed every single episode. It's linked down below in the description. Go and watch those. This is going to be like, I'm going to do a quick summary of the whole season. Then I'm going to talk about some things from our patrons. Then I'm going to take questions from the chat. Maybe this whole thing will be like an hour. Who knows? All right. So let's see. Sorry. Trying to get my notes pulled up. I don't know where the hell they are. All right. Let me know in the chat. How's the audio? Is everything good? Please let me know. Also, this stream has probably already been demonetized, but I'm going to try it just for this one stream. I'm going to try to do what I did last time, even though it was still demonetized for the first 4 days of it being uploaded. I'm going to try to still not curse. So if you leave a comment or something that I respond to and I leave out the curse word, that's why. It's not because I'm a little bitch and don't want to say that kind of language. It's because of YouTube. All right, so let's see. Before I even jump into my notes, let me give a shout out to every single buddy watching right now. So we got 44 people. That's what's up. I'm going to be doing a live stream every Thursday at 12:30. Right now, it's at 12:30 noon. If the time doesn't work out where more people want me to do it later in the afternoon, I will. But Thursday's the day for now. And that should be the live streaming day for the next several months, or at least a couple of months. All right, let's see. Everybody who's in the chat right now, please type so I can give you a shout out. Shout out to Adria McLean, April Dawn, Billy Bob Robertson, Breanne Johnson. What's up, girl? It's a patron of mine. Dragon Knight Tier as well. Charles Joshua, Chelsea, Chris Carr, Duchess of Foggy Bottom, Jason Voorhees. Holy, we got a serial killer in the chat. K3G92. What's up, buddy? Miranda Sierra, Mixed Queen, Destiny Phillips 420. What's up, girl? ML7, Miss Lady LA, Pebbles 83, Riley Rains, Smoking Too Hot. Stephanie Milligan, The North Must Remember. Dragon Knight Tears, well, on my patron. The Couch Stallion, Wex is a Secret Targ, William the Worst, Shimp Pimp, Jamie B, Julie San Roman, Brian Thrasher, what's up, buddy? He's a patron of mine as well. Basket Case and April Dawn. I think I got everybody that's typing in the chat right now. If I missed your username, I'll do another shout out at the end of the stream. All right, so let's get down to brass tacks. All right, so let's see. House of the Dragon, episode 1 was called The Heirs of the Dragon. It was directed by Miguel Sapochnik and it was written by Ryan Condal. Ryan Condal does not have any social media at all, but his partner in crime, aka podcast host, David Mandel, is on Twitter. And if you want to thank and praise Condal, well, send your messages to David Mandel. That's what I've been doing. They're part of the Props podcast, and David Mandel is his host over on Twitter. You can go follow him. He's actually the executive producer and was a writer on Seinfeld, so that's fucking dope. Seinfeld's like, oh, Dad just said the F word. And I even jacked off and took a dump before this. And usually those two things make it so that I am more relaxed. Yeah, he go follow that dude because he's also responsible for Seinfeld, which is the funniest TV show of all time. If you don't get it, it's because you're stupid. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. So the episode 1 is called The Heirs of the Dragon, directed by Miguel Sapochnik, written by Condal. Two things I enjoyed from the episode. Obviously, the battle, the tourney, right, with Daemon. And just in general, the whole tourney scene, right? We saw Stark Knight get his head smashed in by a Baratheon, if I'm not mistaken. That whole sequence was amazing. It was, I can't remember if it was Miguel Sapochnik or the props guy who said, for, House of the Dragon, who said they basically filled up these, like, plastic maces, right, with blood, with fake blood, obviously, and they would shatter on impact. And every single person that was involved in the fight scene that got hit in the face with a blood mace got an extra like $1,200 bonus or something because they actually fucking hurt. Like they genuinely hurt. But that's why it looks like faces are exploding. It was a genius idea. It really was. It looks like bone is being crunched and just faces being destroyed and blood everywhere, right? Really enjoyed that. That was the first thing. Second thing was just in general, the aesthetics of the show. The Red Keep looked amazing. All of the Targaryen heraldry, all of the tapestries everywhere. The Iron Throne itself looked amazing. I was like, oh, we're back in balls deep in Westeros, episode 1. I can't believe it turned out this good. And then once again, that was called The Ears of the Dragon, and it was written by Ryan Condal, directed by Miguel Sapochnik. I mentioned Ryan Condal doesn't have social media, but Miguel Sapochnik does. He has an Instagram account. I follow him. I don't think he's posted anything yet, but just go follow him. Let these people know how fucking awesome they are. And including all the other writers and directors I'm about to list too as we come up on the other episodes. The reason why I say that is because they're very, like, in Game of Thrones, there was like Dan and Dave didn't have social media. You couldn't, if you liked something about it, you couldn't go thank them. But this show, a lot of the directors and the writers and stuff, they have social media. So if you like their stuff, we have the privilege of going to go let them know. And that's awesome. And like I was saying, for the most part, they're very interactive. So that's really cool. Episode 2, right? So let me rerun through that again. Episode 1, directed by Miguel Sapochnik. It's called The Years of the Dragon, written by Ryan Condal. I enjoyed the battle sequence, the tourney sequence, right? And then also the fight with Daemon and Cole, right? It's kind of mixed into that. And then the aesthetics, how amazing the Red Keep looks. King's Landing in general, we got the dragon statue, Velaryon statue, awesome, right? The Iron Throne in particular looked amazing. Kieran Belshaw is someone that I follow on Instagram and on Twitter, and he's the one who literally designed how it looks. He's got a graphic design of Daemon sitting on the Iron Throne. It looks amazing. As a side note, one thing I will say is hilarious. When George was doing his, what was it? I guess like I wouldn't even call it an interview. It was like a thing that he did for Random House where he announced, hey, I'm 3/4 of the way done with Wins a Winner. Speaking of which, that's going to be the next live stream that will get scheduled in the next couple of days, for not next Thursday, but the Thursday after that. We're going balls deep, Song of Ice and Fire, starting with Wins a Winner predictions. That'll be the 2 weeks from now, that podcast. So now you know, turn those notifications on. That may have a time switch up because I'm going to try to get either Robert from In Deep Geek to join me or my buddy Raised Albo from Raised for Days, right? One of the two of them, I'm going to hopefully get them on for that Wins a Winner stream. Episode 2 was called The Rogue Prince. It was directed by Greg Yantis. He's on Instagram and Twitter. Go follow him. Very active. Always reposting stuff. Is amazing. And then the episode was written by Ryan Condal. Again, no social media. But it was called The Rogue Prince. 2 things I liked about it. 3 things. Daemon in the standoff when he takes Dragonstone with the dragon egg. That whole sequence was awesome, right? Obviously, Rhaenyra shows up on Syrax and sort of deads the whole thing, make sure no blood gets shed. But the conversation between Daemon and Sir Otto is hilarious. He's like, are you mad? Like, it's perfect. I love that sequence. And then also the fact that Daemon took Dragonstone is pretty hilarious. Shows you early on the type of relationship him and his brother have. And then also through the years as it gets stressed. You get to read one line, like, in Fire and Blood. And I'm going to try to stay away from book stuff because that's the next week's stream. I'm going to be doing a direct comparison from the TV show to the books. But it's one of the things that shows you that the line in Fire and Blood literally is like, another thing that annoyed King Viserys about his brother Daemon. It was like his one vein, right? Was that he would just be a nuisance. So the show's adding context to that by posting Daemon up in Dragonstone, sort of committing a slight treason, but ultimately he's just throwing a tantrum kind of thing. Like, I really enjoyed that. And then also the scene between Viserys refusing to marry little girl Lena. It was obviously really weird, but the whole scene was actually funny. Now that I've seen it like 3 times, it's actually really funny. He goes, and what did your mother say? And I'm assuming your father said that. Like, the whole sequence was hilarious. It was so funny. That I wouldn't have to bed you till I was 14. So that episode was called The Rogue Prince, directed by Greg Yantis, written by Ryan Condal. Episode 3, directed again by Greg Yantis. The episode title was called Second of His Name. 2 things I enjoyed. It was written by Ryan Condal, but also Gabe Fonseca. So they co-wrote the episode. 2 things I enjoyed, right? 3 things, 4 things. This is the episode with Daemon fighting in the Stepstones. Amazing. My favorite scene, along with Aemon taking Vhagar and Lucerys versus Aemon and the dragons in general, but the Daemon fighting was amazing. He won up the crap out of Jon Snow in the Battle of the Bastards. Remember, Jon Snow does something very similar, right? Goes to willingly commit suicide by running into, the opposing enemy lines, right? Head first, right? That was awesome, right? Rickon was dodging arrows from Ramsay the whole time. That was cool, but this was way better. Daemon committed a war crime. Daemon laid down Dark Sister and said, I'm going to surrender. Saw it, just kidding. And then he stabbed the dude in the chest, proceeded to somersault down the hill and stab and kill everybody. It was amazing. And he took 3 arrows, right? It was dope. Also, another thing I enjoyed in that episode is the White Hart, the hunt scene. I'm a big fanboy of George R. R. Martin. So obviously when he has things like a hunt between including Robert Baratheon and a couple of other individuals, and they're literally looking for a White Hart, and that's kind of like showing you the kind of king that he is, but ultimately gets left out of season 1 of Game of Thrones. They intentionally included that in this show for George, because George didn't, it was one of his one complaints about the Game of Thrones show is that they showed very few hunting scenes. So that's why they did this. The White Hart is something from Arthurian legend, yes, but also it's literally mentioned in Game of Thrones, the first book. Robert goes out to hunt the White Hart, which is this, this legendary creature of the forest, like stags and deers, not reindeer. Stags and deers in general are known to be like the king of the forest or whatever in mythology, in European mythology. So they took that White Hart scene and they, ended up making King Viserys not find it, gave it to Rhaenyra, who's the actual heir, and then she sort of just lets it live. It's kind of like symbolic as hell. She never really fully grasps power, right? She allows it to slip by her grasp because it's so beautiful. Go watch my episode 2 breakdown if you want like a well thought out speech on that whole thing, but it was awesome. And then, we also have the same time traveling boar that killed Robert Baratheon. Rhaenyra stabbed the shit out of it, thanks to Kristen Cole. So that was really cool. Another thing that I enjoyed from that episode, aside from Daemon fighting in the Stepstones and, the White Hart, the hunting plot, is that this episode kind of established that there's going to be a problem. And that's what kicks off the war, right? Remember, Aegon is like, I think it's his 3rd name day. The reason why the king plans the hunt is because Alicent is pregnant yet again, super fertile, right? So it lets us know when we see Sir Otto and Hobart plotting, they are saying like, Aegon should be the heir. He's the male. The king finally has a male heir. So that lets us know from episode 3, very early on, this is going to be the main problem throughout the entirety of the stories. The king never names his son, his firstborn son, who's legitimate Targaryen. He never names him his heir. So this episode sets up that plot really early on. Thoroughly enjoyed it. Once again, the director was Greg Yantis. The episode was called Second of His Name, obviously referring to Aegon, and it was co-written by Ryan Kondo and Gabe Fonseca. And the things I enjoyed, the Daemon fight scene in the Stepstones, the White Hart hunt plot, and then obviously the setting up and furthering the story for what's going to come in the eventually what we saw. Okay, episode 4. This is my favorite director. Episode 4 was called King of the Narrow Sea. It was written by Ira Parker and directed by Claire Kilner. I follow Claire on Instagram. Very active. Go follow her. She's amazing. I'm not sure if Ira Parker has social media. I haven't seen him tagged in anything in the post from the cast and all that stuff. So if he does, find him. Follow him. The episode was amazing. Once again, it was called King of the Narrow Sea. A couple of things that I enjoyed. Rhaenyra and Daemon going to the Street of Silk and going to that whorehouse and looking at all those Valyrian glyphs. That is amazing. It's hard to explain, but pretty much, not to sound like a goody two-shoes again, but when you read the books, things like Valyrian glyphs and the eyeless woman who told Rhaenyra her future, those aren't included in Fire and Blood, but you kind of just assume that they were there. And this is one of those things where, of course, the Targaryens are in power in King's Landing. Everybody's going to be sucking their D's, like jacking them off and walking through the streets. So I beg to see that on screen because we never saw, like, this whole story is about the downfall of House Targaryen and about how, in the main series, how there's only 2 left, Daenerys and Jon Snow. So getting to see King's Landing and specifically the horse with the Valyrian glyphs, amazing. That was actually the scene I just jacked off to right before I started this live stream. Obviously, I'm kidding. Maybe I'm not. Maybe I had a couple windows open. Maybe I had several things going on. You know what I'm saying? Just kidding. Another thing I enjoyed. This was something that caught me off guard. I didn't realize. Like, I knew the episode was directed by Claire Kilner, but the sex scene between Kristen Cole and Rhaenyra was very well executed. It was actually too tasteful to jack off to. Like, it was just, I was like, hey, this is cool. Remember, she takes his helmet and she's kind of like just got played by her uncle, but ultimately she wants to sort of make herself feel good, right? So she grabs his helmet. And that's like, something about that scene was just, it made me go, oh man, I wish something like that happened to me. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's the best way that I could put it into words. And again, and if you want a better, well thought out sentence of words, go watch my episode 4 breakdown. This is kind of like a live stream, and it's a, callbacks, retouch, all that stuff. Yeah, that sex scene was directed by Claire. She did a really good job. The whole thing about how, Rhaenyra's on top, and like you could tell the difference, right, between a sex scene like that and something like Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, right? Like I don't even think there's any sex scenes in that. I just remember jacking off to it as a kid because like there was no internet in 2002. So, I mean, like there was, but I didn't have the internet. I would go to Blockbuster and get rated R movies that I would tell my parents is funny, right? And then I'd know there'd be a sex scene in it. And I'd be like, I got to watch the movie with my door closed. It's so funny. I don't want y'all to hear me laughing. You know what I mean? And that was back in the days when most porn was on VHS tapes. And my dumbass, when I found my dad's stash, I didn't think to rewind it, right? I'm like, what is this? Sexy titty lesbian cunt fuck or something. Like, that's obviously not the name of it, right? But I didn't think to rewind it back to the spot where it was at before I started doing the deed. These kids nowadays, you got it made, man. You just pull up your phone and you're like, hey, anal, you just right there. It's all right there. And it's free. It's free. I would wait till late at night, right? And when the Girls Gone Wild commercials would come on, yeah, Comedy Central past midnight. What? It was like a race before the commercial ended. All right. I don't know how the hell we got talking about that. Okay, and another thing I enjoyed about episode 4 before we move on is that is a vile accusation. That scene I love so much. It looks like my hand to the kingpin is giving you a giant middle finger. I'm the hand of the king. You. All right. When Rhaenyra is confronted by Alicent and she says that is a vile accusation. This Rhaenyra, adult Rhaenyra, says the same thing when confronted about a very similar situation. That is a vile accusation. So I loved that line it goes for, and like the face that Millie Alcock makes is perfect. Oh yeah, and then also obviously Rhaenyra gets her fate read by the crazy eyeless woman. That was really amazing. She literally goes, "Do you want to know your fate, girl?" Does this wicked laugh, and then flame comes out, right? Sunfire the Golden eats Rhaenyra in the end. But Sunfire is half dead. Sunfire is literally about to die, so Sunfire doesn't really want to eat. So Aegon has one of his Kingsguardmen slice Rhaenyra's titty, and then Sunfire smells blood and then eats Rhaenyra and leaves her leg behind. The only thing left behind is her leg. Remember, Larry the Clubfoot has his clubfoot removed when he dies. He wants to have it cut off. And we all know it's because he doesn't have perfect feet. He has a foot fetish. He wants to remove the impurity of the club and foot. All right, so that episode was called We Light the Way. It was directed by Claire Kilner. I follow her on Instagram. Go follow her. And then it was also, I didn't never mention this, it was written by Charmaine de Groot. If I'm not mistaken, this is the episode that was directed, written, the director of photography. Most of the people in power to control how this episode went was all women's. So that's really cool. That was a first for Game of Thrones HBO. And then my favorite things was, wait, did I jump? Oh, yes, I did. I jumped to episode 5. Fudge. All right, let me go back to episode 4. Episode 4, directed by Claire Kilner. That's why I don't remember mentioning Charmaine DeGrappe, because I didn't say it yet. Episode 4, King of the Narrow Sea. Director, Claire Kilner. Writer, Ira Parker. Don't know if he has social media. Things I enjoyed, Rhaenyra and Daemon going to the whorehouse. We see the Valyrian glyphs. Kristen Cole sex scene. Vile accusation line. Amazing. Rhaenyra getting her fate read by the crazy eyeless woman. That was awesome. Episode 5. Here we go. Moving on, right? Episode 5 was called We Light the Way. It was directed by Claire Kilner, and it was written by Charmaine DeGrappe, right? Now, 2 things I love from that episode. Harwin saving Rhaenyra. The episode was pretty tragic, so I don't necessarily have favorite moments from it, but I have scenes that I really enjoyed and were very well written and directed. Harwin saving Rhaenyra, that was one of my favorite. That's like one of my favorite scenes of the series, but also for that episode. It was dope. They're dancing, yada, yada. Daemon cuts in, fight breaks out. Cole goes insane. The crowd starts moshing the wrong way, not the good way, not like at a rock concert. And Rhaenyra gets stuck. But then Lionel Strong gives Harwin the nod. And then he just goes, burn through the ditches and swing in the back of my drag you. Like he literally drags out Rhaenyra. It's dope. It was really cool. Really, really cool. And then I also enjoyed the blood and cheese scene at the very end. At the very end of the episode. People don't talk about that a lot. Well, I don't know because I don't watch other people's videos, but I don't talk about that a lot because blood and cheese is coming up. It's going to be very tragic. But at the end of episode 5, we have the blood and cheese scene where basically there's a pile of blood on the floor from Joffrey Lonmouth, and a rat comes up and starts licking the blood. So that's a blood and cheese symbology where Daemon hires a rat catcher named Cheese and Blood, a former gold cloakman, and send them into the Red Keep, Maegor's Holdfast, up to the Queen's chambers. Helena loses one of her kids, right? So that this moment in this episode 5 at the very end, right after Viserys passes out, which makes everybody sort of disperse, a blood and cheese like foreshadowing moment happens, and that was like another one of my favorite moments of the episode. Once again, that was called We Light the Way, directed by Claire Kilner, written by Charmaine DeGrappe. Harwin saving Rey is my favorite moment in the blood and cheese scene at the end. And then we get to episode 6. This is the big one. This is the time jump. So this director of this episode was Miguel Sapochnik, and the writer was Sarah Hess. And like I said, Miguel Sapochnik does have a Instagram, social media. I follow him. He just hasn't posted anything. And then Sarah Hess has an Instagram as well. Very Small Pig, I think that's her username. 2 things I enjoyed about the episode. The time jump, meaning that we finally get to see Emma Darcy in their portrayal of Rhaenyra, which is dope because these are the actors who are going to be playing the characters for the rest of the series. So yes, the time jumps are jarring, but ultimately, yes, Millie Alcock did do amazing, and I kind of didn't want to lose her as Rhaenyra, but when you realize, there's teenage kids that are around the age of Millie Alcock in real life, it wouldn't work. You have to bring in Emma Darcy. Not to mention, Emma was mentioned before Millie Alcock. So in my mind, I've literally been making videos on this show since 2019. Really before that, because I kind of was talking about Dance Dragon before that. But Emma was the first person mentioned for that role of Rhaenyra. So my mind for several years was being like, how is this person going to make these scenes and these moments from the books come to life? What are their other credits? How good are they going to do on screen? Right? So because I was focused and hyper focused on that it was like, yes, the show's getting started finally, right? Even though I thoroughly enjoyed, and some of them I even liked some of the earlier episodes before the later ones, right? But it was amazing to finally get to see Olivia Cook come in as Alicent, and then also Emma Darcy start in their role as Rhaenyra. So that was my favorite thing about the episode, regardless of how you want to say the pacing or the writing or any of that was. I was just super excited to finally get into the final timeline for the dance to kick off. And then also, Larry's, right? Bastard. Sending his Firefly men to burn Lionel and Harwin. Now, that's not really a favorite moment of the episode, but that scene and Harwin dying, like just outside the door of his father, Lionel, was insanely tragic. But it had to happen to further the story. One thing, and I think George agrees with this, is that we didn't get to see Harwin and Rhaenyra really in love at all. Like, we saw them embrace a little bit, but we didn't get to see what the relationship was like what initially made them first hook up, what Harwin's relationship was with Laenor after that. Like, obviously we saw a little bit of that with the older version of Laenor played by John McMillan, but Theo Nate, the younger version of him, I would have liked to see what he thought about Harwin basically stealing his girl, It would have been interesting to see how Laenor gets over losing Joffrey Lonmouth, like literally Kristen Cole just beat his face in. Laenor had some grieving to do. Would have been interesting to see how he would have handled that grief when Rhaenyra would have been, being consoled by Harwin. So it would have been really cool to see. Let's see. And then just to reiterate, episode 6 was called The Princess and the Queen. It was directed by Miguel Sapochnik and it was written by Sarah Hess. Things that I enjoyed, the time jump, the fact that we're finally getting to see the actual iteration of these characters on screen. And then Larry's with the Firefly Man and burning Lionel and Harwin. That was pretty crazy. All right. So episode 7 was called Driftmark. It was directed by Miguel Sapochnik and it was written by Kevin Lay. That's a mistype. I think his name is Kevin Lau. Yes. I don't know why. Okay, so yeah, Kevin Lau is an American screenwriter and director, producer, and member of the writing staff for House of the Dragon. So he wrote episode 7. And wrote it by himself. There was no co-writing, but it was directed by Miguel Sapochnik. Once again, called Driftmark. 2 things that I enjoyed: Aemon's flight on Vhagar. Vhagar has a new rider now. Amazing! I've never seen, and still have never seen anything that I've enjoyed to watch so much. But then ultimately feel guilty about it because he's stealing. Although not technically, you can't. One thing the finale taught us is dragons are not a slave. But then also, you can't steal one. The dragon wouldn't let you steal it. They let you mount it. So Vhagar allowed herself to be stolen, if you want to say it that way. But that whole 5-minute scene of Vhagar being ridden by Aemon, I couldn't ask for more. Like, yes, it was dark. Yes, he ultimately wronged the blacks, but like it was so perfect. Like, La Kitty Vhagar. Like, it was so awesome. Leo Ashton did an amazing job and killed it in that scene, dude. Like, he was the star of the younger kids that played the younger characters before they aged them up the last time. He was the star for sure. I don't think that's yours, Andy. Let me see. Do the face. Make the face. That's an office joke. This is an office cup. Obviously, that's not my face on it, but that was an office joke. True OG Office fans will get it. And then Jim's on the world's smallest Bluetooth with Pam, and he's like, whatever. All right. Viserys. Okay, so Aemon, the flight with Vhagar, and then ultimately, this scene helped lay the groundwork for why the war would start. Rhaenyra gets cut by Alicent. It was amazing. They have a showdown, right? Aemon tells his mother, "It's okay, Mom. I may have lost an eye, but I gained a dragon." She's like, "Nah, little nigga, that's not good enough. I want more." That was an amazing scene. The fact that Rhaenyra and Alicent are pretty much the same strength, it would be an equal fight if they were to scrap with no dragons, right? I'm just being silly now. But yes, I thoroughly enjoyed that episode as well. It was called Driftmark. It was directed by Miguel Sapochnik, and it was written by Kevin Lau. And once again, I enjoyed thoroughly the Aemon flight on Vhagar, and then Alicent cutting Rhaenyra. Episode 8, we're rounding out to the last 3 episodes of the season. Then I'm going to jump into some content from my patrons. Then I'm going to jump into the chat, right? We're about 30 minutes into it right now. I just wanted to set that up. So episode 8 was called Lord of the Tides. It was the best episode of the season. Hands down. Hands down. I enjoyed episode 10. I enjoyed episode 9. I enjoyed episode 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. But episode 8, though, was amazing. It was how I usually feel about episode 9 for Game of Thrones. Episode 8 did that. So obviously, when you have something that tragic happen in episode 8 that we all knew was going to happen, like literally the king's been dying since the first episode, it was crazy good. So the episode was called Lord of the Tides. It was directed by Gita V. Patel, and it was written by Aline Shim. And this is another episode that was helmed mostly, if not all, by women's. About a women's. Good job, women's. Yes. So some things I enjoyed: Viserys mounting the Iron Throne / the crown falling, and Daemon picking it up and putting it on Petty Constantine's head, Viserys' head. That was improvised. That the crown falling was not supposed to happen. Daemon rushing over to go and pick it up and put it. That wasn't supposed to happen. They begged Gita Patel to leave it in, and she did, and it was amazing. It shows. Love this episode. If I had the chance to critique one thing about the episode, it would be impossible. It would be nearly impossible for me to find one thing to be like, oh, crap. This is also the episode that we have the dinner, right? Viserys literally mounts his family and says, stop it. Stop what you are doing. Everything is good. This is my heir, and y'all are family, right? And for that moment in time, they're like, okay. And he sees, oh, they're dancing. They're talking amongst themselves. It's okay for me to die. And I think that's what ultimately made Viserys lose that last little bit of life. Willingly, he gave up because he saw, oh, I finally made an impact on these people. Finally, they're going to stop being at each other's necks. And let me just remind Rhaenyra of this conversation that we had earlier. Oh, crap, I'm dead. Like, that was... So once again, episode 8, Lord of the Tides was the title. It was directed by Gita Patel. It was written by Aline Shim. My favorite moments: Viserys mounting the Iron Throne / Daemon crowning him when the crown falls off his head. Obviously, Vaemon Velaryon losing his tongue when the king grabs his knife and says, I'll have your tongue for that. And Daemon chops his fucking head off and he goes, he can keep his tongue. I don't need it. Awesome. Viserys dying. Very sad. And then moving on, right? Episode 9 was called The Green Council. Was directed by my girl, Claire Kilner. And then it was also written by Sarah Hess. Now, this was the one episode, writing-wise, not directing-wise, writing-wise, where I had genuine critiques, right? And the main reason being is because Rhaenys is this bright and shining, amazing person in the books, right? The queen who never was, the badass boss bitch who never really did anything that you could question their character. Everybody else is great in the books, but Rhaenys is not. She's not. She never does anything against the small folk. She never directly does anything to harm her family, right? She's an angel. So then when you have her bursting through the floor and killing hundreds of innocent people, what that tells me is you ain't read A Song of Ice and Fire. You ain't probably read House of the Dragon. But it's okay. Well, there's no book called House of the Dragon. You ain't read Fire and Blood. It was cool as fuck. Visually, my eyes were eating it up, right? But then you realize, oh, no, not only did this not happen, but the fact that hundreds of innocent people got killed this early in the war, it's not really Rhaenys' style. It's not who she is, right? So Sarah Hess literally said, I think it would be cool if Rhaenys came through the floor on her dragon. So that's why we got that scene. That's my critique. It was cool to watch, but it wasn't supposed to happen. It broke canon, and it didn't break it in a good way where it expanded upon it. It was just like, how would people, we need an off moment for this episode. Let's have Rhaenys burst through the floor, right? You could argue to play devil's advocate to say some good things about it, right? To see it from the other side, because I definitely just don't like it. I like it visually, but I don't like it because I'm canon. I know canon is God, and when you stick to canon, for the most part, you were very successful. So that just completely broke it, right? Rhaenys isn't even in King's Landing. She's on the Black Council. She's over at Driftmark. And then when Rhaenyra finds out about the news, Rhaenys and Corlys immediately come over to the Black Council, and then Corlys starts closing off the gullet, right? And then Rhaenys, regardless, what it does do, a good thing about it, is it sets up something that's going to happen in about probably season 3 or season 4, where this dude, the Shepherd, convinces thousands of angry citizens of King's Landing to go into the dragon pit and destroy it, right? Because Rhaenys killed all of those hundreds, if not thousands, of innocent King's Landing citizens, right? This sets it up for later. Some of the people that survived Rhaenys bursting through the floor on Melees is probably going to be in that crowd. Either one of the characters will be the Shepherd, or literally they'll, still be mangled and broken up from that, and they'll say, yo, now's our chance. Let's go and attack and bring down the dragon pit. Ultimately, they end up, a lot of the dragons in there chained up. Dreamfire breaks her chains, flies up, cracks the ceiling, and then all of these pieces of glass fall down and kill all of the dragons that are in the dragon pit. And I think there's like 6 of them in there when that happens. So the best thing about the Melees Rhaenys scene is that now you have early context. You have season 1, episode 9. Rhaenys did this thing. This is why the citizens of King's Landing are going to do that thing. It's, like I said, it was a spectacle. I didn't like I didn't like Sarah Hess's comments on why she literally was like, I just thought it would be cool to see a dragon burst through the floor. It doesn't matter. I don't work on the show. My opinion means literally nothing, but people watching this, maybe you wanted to hear that. You wanted to hear my opinion. And that's my opinion on the scene. It's good, but it's also bad. But also, it's not bad enough to ruin the rest of the story. It doesn't bring up things that will cause a ripple effect, kind of. Like it sort of did, but ultimately it's like, no, those citizens, it could help the story, right? More than it would hurt the story. I just wasn't expecting it. So that was obviously my canon feelings got hurt because I wasn't expecting it. But also it's like, that's the kind of writing choices for Game of Thrones season 8. Similar, down that same vein. How cool would it be to have Drogon burst through the gates of King's Landing and literally explode stone? Well, technically, that's impossible, but it's a spectacle and it's amazing to watch. Episode 9 was called The Green Council, was directed by my girl Claire Kilner and written by Sarah Hess. A couple of things I liked about it, just repeating that. I never actually mentioned the things that I liked about it. I just immediately started off with that. Aegon being crowned. That scene was amazing. Tom Glenn Carney fucking killed it. Speaking of which, he retweeted my post on Instagram all last night or yesterday. So that was fucking awesome. Shout out Tom Glenn Carney, King Aegon 2, you rock, dude. He's also in a band called Sleepwalking Animals. So yeah, you should go check them out. They're pretty cool. Aemon being crowned, it was amazing. The Green Council, in that episode. And then also the fight scene with my boys, Elliot and Luke Tittenzor, right? The Cargill twins, right? Eric and Arik, right? That whole scene with them and Cole and trying to find King Aegon, it was dope. The fight scene was amazing. They're literally rolling down the steps, fucking the way Cole disarms Arik, dope. His sword just goes. It's like someone used force pull to pull it. It was dope. Moving on, last episode, right? Episode 10. It's called The Black Queen. It was written by Ryan Condal and directed by Greg Yantis. It was called The Black Queen. Now, this is just praise, right? Rhaenyra being brought the crown by Eric Cargill. Amazing. Damon takes it first, sort of inspects it, holds it, and then crowns Rhaenyra. That whole scene, dopest. I loved it. And then also the Lucerys fight scene between Aemon and Vhagar. Arax is a little punk, all right? Oh yeah, let me go back to the Rainies thing. There were people that were saying that the innocent citizens in King's Landing chose this dude, King Aegon, so that's the side they're automatically on the greens. Rewatch that. The person that tweeted that on Twitter is one of those stan accounts. Rewatch the whole episode, dummy, and then rewatch the whole series because you missed it. Literally, they're all being shoveled towards the fucking dragon pit. I can't believe people missed that. And the gold cloaks, this was something that I didn't really pay attention to, but I think Daemon was intentionally trying to lock in melee. Like Daemon had his gold cloaks locked. You got to realize that the gold cloaks are still loyal to Daemon. So it looked like with them trying to force the doors closed and Sir Otto's yelling, open the doors, open the door. Like it looks like they were intentionally not listening to Sir Otto and wanted to trap Melees in there so that she would kill all those people in King's Landing and hopefully kill Aegon. Maybe that gets addressed. Maybe when we have the blood and cheese happen with Lysaria, that scene, it'll get addressed, and that's what Daemon was trying to do. But like I said, there was people on Twitter that were trying to say those people that were part of the Green Council aren't exactly innocent because they chose to be part of Aegon too. No, they didn't. They didn't choose nothing. They're minding their own goddamn business on the streets like they always do, and the small folk just get swept up into the higher lords' problems. They just want to be left alone. They want to be like, oh, look, there's a dragon. Oh, look, hey, just took a shit on my friend. Oh, hopefully he doesn't eat us. Like that, they just want to be left alone. They don't want to be a part of kings and queens and lords and ladies of Westeros. They don't want to be part of their Game of Thrones. They just want to be left alone, right? And yeah, I don't even know what I was talking about. But yeah, most of the time the small foe is innocent. Okay, so episode 10, The Black Queen, written by Ryan Condal, directed by Greg Gantis. Rhaenyra being crowned, Lucerys fight scene with Vhagar, Daemon checking in on Vermithor and singing that High Valyrian song. That was dope. Love that scene. And then also Corlys showing up. We hadn't seen him in a whole episode. And not only does he get better, but he also says, I've already got my dudes going to block off the gullet. You might have thought I wasn't going to help your ass, but I am. And the speech that he gives her, and like, it was kind of interesting that, Rhaenyra was being courteous and saying, oh, Sir Corlys, I didn't think that, or Lord Corlys, whatever, I didn't think that you would have made a recovery so fast. It's good to see you here. And then he immediately checks her and goes, your father, sorry to hear about his death. And she's like, oh, shit. So yeah, I really enjoyed that scene. So once again, the episode was called The Black Queen. It was written by Ryan Condal and directed by Greg Gantis. All right, so now what I'm about to do is jump into my Patreon, run through these, and then jump into the chat because you all are watching me live. All right, so what I did was I posted on my Patreon. You can join for like $2, right? And it's not just to join to help to give me money. I have exclusive content up there. Like yesterday, I just dropped a 20-minute video talking about several different locations in Westeros, Winterfell, King's Landing, and Casterly Rock. I read from World of Ice and Fire, and I described it in my own words. And usually in my podcast, I'll just recall things off the top of my head, but I wanted to give like an actual description of those locations and what they sound like in the books. But yeah, you can join my Patreon for just a few dollars, and it really helps me out because this live stream has already been demonetized. I can guarantee you it's already been demonetized. I already said too many curse words, and that's really silly because I prepare, especially when the season was on, I prepare all week for these things. I don't say anything to offend anybody. I'm talking about make-believe characters, and the best part, a show about dragons. YouTube goes, hey man, you and your ad revenue. You're too controversial. Let me demonetize your videos for the entire time it would be getting views. So the 2 hours that you spent talking to people, right, and getting ads to play on our platform, we're going to demonetize you. So my Patreon is a way to directly combat that. I don't ever have to mention it or bitch about it in my videos if I have a Patreon where I'm consistently making some source of revenue. I mean, I have a family, I have kids, everybody knows this, but that's what Patreon's for. And one of the things you get is, aside from exclusive content, is when I make posts like these for the live streams, y'all's questions and comments get read first before we go into the chat. But I'm still going to go into the chat because I still want to, show my appreciation for the people watching this. All right, so this is from AnaaaRodarte, who's a member of my Patreon family, and they mentioned, how do you feel about them changing how Lucerys died as an accident? I feel like Aemon is in the gray area. Is he good or bad? Okay, so I've kind of mentioned this in my breakdown, so I'll just re-summarize for you. I love it. I more than love it because That kind of decision to make it all an accident can only come from someone who studied the source material as much, if not more so than myself. You only get those kind of grand ideas and grand pictures for things when you've read everything, not just the main series of a Game of Thrones book. So that's a Game of Thrones, a Clash of Kings, a Storm of Swords, a Feast for Crows, and a Dance of Dragons, right? Then you also have the World of Ice and Fire and Blood Part 1. Then you have the Princess and the Queen, the Rogue Prince, and then there's a couple of like, ready for this? I say a couple of like novella. No, Dunk and Egg, right? Then there's the entire Hedge Knight series. If you've read all of those, like myself, right? I've read all of them 7 times. I'm in my 7th read. If you've done that, you make excellent decisions in saying that, hey, you know what the big theme in this book is? Dragons are not in 100% control, really, at any time by any person. Even the dragon is so impulsive, it's not guaranteed that the dragon will know what it does next. Like, yes, they're highly intelligent. Yes, they're as smart or smarter than humans, but ultimately, it's a savage creature that, putting it the way Viserys does it, humans, Valyrians, never should have trifled with. So yes, I absolutely love, to answer your question, AnaaaRodarte, I love what they did with Lucerys dying. And yes, Aemon, in the books, makes sense for him to do this because, well, for one, he's not even bullied by Lucerys or the Strong Boys. If anything, he bullies them because he makes the declaration at the feast, right? This was perfect. You got to realize that, yes, Aemon and Vhagar have been bonded for 10 years, but Vhagar is the oldest living creature on that show. Vhagar was around during the conquering of Westeros. 130 years ago, Vhagar was a big bitch back then, right? Alive, and was destroying things. There was no other dragons annoying her, right? Like, Visenya and her dragon Meraxes and Aegon and his dragon Velaryon, they were like this. They were sister wives and husbands. So if anything, Vhagar potentially had a bond with Velaryon and Meraxes, and also with the writers, Visenya and Aegon, and Rhaenys. So it's like, it was never a bond as strong as that between Vhagar and Aemon. And the fact that Lucerys is telling his dragon Arax, who he slept in a crib with, Soves, Dohitis, right? Telling his dragon, fucking please listen to me, fucking please, do what I'm telling you to do. You need to make sure you're paying strong attention, right? That lets us know, it's setting us up. Hey, these dragons are not slaves. So don't play with them because they're going to do something you probably don't like, right? And that's what happened. So I love that, to answer your question. And then, thank you for that, AnaaaRodarte. Then we got another one from Mixed Queen Destiny Phillips 420. And she says, Rhaenyra, she doesn't want to go to war, but with her son's death, what will push her to display the necessary force? Will she stay level-headed? All right, so to answer the first part of your question, what will push her to display the necessary force? So when Jacaerys dies in the Battle of the Gullet, Rhaenyra literally says, "Get," and she ends up becoming active in the war. So the death of her second, well, it's her firstborn son, but she loses another son, and that's her heir, Jacaerys. When she loses him, that's when she finally starts, and that'll probably happen season 3. That's when she really starts to become hands-on, and she gains this attitude of, but what it looks like they're doing for the show is it looks like Lucerys's death is the one that's going to push her forward, because she's kind of hesitant this entire episode. She wants to keep the realm under control. She wants to keep the 7 kingdoms, for the most part, united, and she hasn't decided that she wants to go to war. But ultimately, the death of Lucerys in this show is what pushes her forward, because in the books, it's the death of Jacaerys that does it. And then will she stay level-headed? Absolutely not. She becomes like Cersei. In canon, she becomes like Cersei. In the TV show, she'll probably be a mix of Daenerys, Cersei, and then also probably Marjorie. She'll have like similarities with Marjorie. But ultimately, when she takes King's Landing, she has Sir Otto and Jasper Wilde beheaded. And then towards the end, she doesn't even trust Corlys, and she tries to have Corlys locked up. So she starts literally turning against the people closest to her. So no, to answer your question, she does not stay level-headed. And thank you for that question, Mixed Queen Destiny Phillips 420. And then we got another one from Claudia M. And she says, I wonder if they will change Rainier's death. Thank you for that, Claudia. I don't think they will. Rainier's death is utterly perfect for the TV show. They may change the events surrounding it, but ultimately she has to be eaten by a dragon. Like the part with slicing her breast to entice Sunfire, that's really juicy. They should put that. Talking about tits, and then I say juicy. They have to keep that in there because that's good. That's really good. I like that. And then also, it's so fitting and so perfect. Just that she's eaten by Sunfire. The egg that she retrieved from Daemon and put in Aegon's crib. That egg that she gets from Daemon in episode 2, that's Sunfire's egg. That becomes Sunfire the Golden. That's Aegon 2's dragon. So they set that up there so early. There's no way they're changing that. Thank you for that question, Claudia. Then I got one from Angel Christ, and she says, I wonder if the king was poisoned. Daemon smelled the cup and had this really strange look. Maybe he suspected something, but didn't have time to prove it, or didn't care because if his brother died, then his wife would take the throne and he could have power on his side. Any thoughts on that one? All right, so you're referring to episode 8 where Rainier and Daemon walk in and they, the king is out of it. He's like missing half his face. He's literally going to die that episode. Daemon smells the cup because he's drinking milk of the poppy. So he gets mad at Alicent and Sir Otto for keeping the king drugged up all the time and then confronts them about it. And the reason why he smells the cup is because the king just had it because the king is like fumbling and says, I need my tea. And then after he drinks it, he sort of like relaxes. King Viserys relaxes and seems like this big burden is released off of him. So Daemon immediately picks up the cup and smells it. And he finds out immediately it's poppy. It's heroin. The king is drinking heroin tea and Daemon is upset about it. So there's a possibility that the king was being poisoned. And I even came up with the Maester theory. Like a lot of people, it is a thing in the books. The Maester Grey Rat theory is very much a thing in the books. But for the TV show, I don't think they really did it. The reason why Viserys was just dying this slow, agonizing death is because he's punishing himself for what he did to Emma Arryn. So he gets sick right around that time. He forces Emma to have all these kids, and that ultimately kills her. So because of that, he allows himself to suffer and ultimately die from this disease that's killing him because of what he did to Emma Arryn, forcing her to have kids and ultimately killing her when he cut her open to save Balon, who ended up dying anyway. He feels immense guilt for that. So he allows himself to die this horrible, long, agonizing death because of what he did to Emma Arryn. So I don't think that he was actually being poisoned on the show, although it's possible. It just that scene that you're talking about, Daemon was referring to Milk of the Poppy, King being drugged up all the time, and he got mad at Alicent and Otto and was informing that to Rainier. Thank you for that comment, Angel Christ. Then we got one from Pebbles83, and she says, I'm hoping Jace going to Winterfell is the cold open for season 2. Exactly. I'm excited to see what they will show in the north and hoping to see some direwolves. That's a really good point. Technically, in the main stories, direwolves haven't been seen south of the wall in quite some time when Ned gives all of his kids direwolves, when Ned Stark does that. So it's possible, since this was a much more magical time, dragons are everywhere in Westeros, totally possible that it's not in canon, but they could make Cregan have a direwolf. They could totally give Cregan a direwolf. It's the sigil for his house. Dragons are everywhere. We could totally be seeing direwolves. And it will definitely be, if not the first scene of episode 1 of season 2, one of the first scenes, Jace being in Winterfell, after maybe we see a couple of scenes of him flying to the Vale and then White Harbor. Ultimately, we'll see Cregan, we'll see Sarah Snow, we could potentially see direwolves, like you said. We could potentially see the Godswood, the Winterfell Godswood. Like, that's awesome. We're going to see ice. We're going to see Cregan with ice. That's the Valyrian steel sword that is been in House Stark for 400 years, right? So that's really cool. And then the last thing, thank you for that, Pebbles83. The last thing that I want to mention is from a Dragon Knight tier member of mine called The North Must Remember. And he's basically, he makes content here on YouTube. I'm sure you've probably seen him in the chat. Let me see if I can't highlight a comment from him so you guys can all go subscribe to his channel. So wait. So yeah, go subscribe to him. Click on his username in the chat and go subscribe to his channel. If you all want some Game of Thrones season 9 content, he's been writing a bunch of fan fiction. It's really good. But he mentions, sort of summarized here, but he basically is saying that do the writers skin changing dragons entering the mind of the beast? Maybe we have it backwards. So basically, he's saying that dragons actually work into the mind of their riders and feed off of their innermost feelings. He goes on to say, perhaps the dragon enters the rider's mind, sensing its feelings, its thoughts and feelings. And then if this possibility is expanded upon in Hot D, it is likely through the Jon Snow prequel, and Dany is vindicated as Drogon acted on King's Landing without Dany's permission. Now, the last part there, nothing is going to vindicate her. She killed like 2 million people. She can't be like, it was the dragon, it wasn't me, right? But I mean, there's definitely the connection goes 2 ways for sure. I see what you're getting at. Like, not only are they, bonding with their dragon in the sense that, like, if they control or want their dragon to go a certain way, the dragon goes that way by following its directions, but also there's a mental connection. It's not actually like confirmed, but we assume with the Starks being wargs and green seers and warging into their dire wolves, there's even other examples of maybe even Lannisters being able to warg into cats. Like Cersei's really calm around this lion that's in a cage. And Jaime, like when they're younger, Cersei holds her hand out to go and pet the lion, and the lion comes towards her, and Jaime has to pull her back. And the fact that the lion didn't react unnaturally, maybe there's a possibility that the Lannisters can warg into cats. So what I'm getting at here, and what the Northwestern member is getting at here, is warging is something that should greatly be explored. And in House of the Dragon in particular, let me pull up some more of his thoughts here. He says, dragon riders can sense the rider's emotions / feelings and react as they see fit. Evidence, Caraxes responded physically to Daemon's pain when Daemon got shot by the arrow, and then Daemon tried to calm Caraxes, and then Sirach's relentlessness, and when Rhaenyra is giving birth, and then Arax feeling Luke's fear and pain, thus like basically saying that the dragons can enter the minds of their riders, and the riders don't necessarily have to express those feelings. The dragons just act on them. So like I said, I don't think that that's going to exonerate Daenerys for what she did. But here's the thing. She's a dragon queen. She doesn't have to be exonerated. She literally conquering Westeros, right? So I like that. You all let me know what you think in the comments. I'm actually about to jump into the chat right now. Thank you for sharing that, the Northwest Remember. And like I said, make sure you guys go and subscribe to his channel. I pinned it right here. Well, you guys can see this comment, but that's the username. So you can go click on that and make sure you go subscribe to his channel, please. Longtime supporter of mine and longtime patron. Thank you for all your support, man. Let's see. Jumping all the way back up to the chat. Mad Jack says, I feel like Viserys was there in that moment the cat's paw killed the Night's King. I don't think so. Viserys, remember, he got dreams, but not consistently. He spent his whole life trying to get those dreams again, to get those visions again, so he could like get more information from it. XO Mary Jane says episode 9 except Melee's and Rainey's. Romel says same, but I'm not sure what that's for. Gene says, how can farming be the Night King if the Night King was made thousands of years ago? Oh, how can Daemon be the Night King if the Night King was made thousands of years before Daemon was even born? And I never said Daemon is the Night King. I don't know where that came from. That's really silly. I made a video where I talked about Daemon fighting White Walkers, and that was in the thumbnail, but I never actually said Daemon's going to become the Night King. Maybe someone else was saying that in the chat. John Haymaker says they have nothing to do with that. They control the line of six. Oh, wait. You're talking to Stephanie. John Haymaker says, Aegon II, protector of the realm, wanker of the window. Shaun Blackman, he's a patron member of mine. What's up, buddy? Says, they should have had the crowd of small folk in between her and the Greens. Then she could have said she didn't want to kill innocent people, and that's why she didn't turn the Greens black. Exactly. So, like, basically burning, she didn't, like, setting it up a different way, writing-wise. I agree with that. Trust Sweet says, oh my God, I made it live. Hey, how's it going? How you doing? Thank you for joining us. Yes, go subscribe. Northwest, remember. Extra says, either way, on the ground or in the air, it was going to end badly for Luke. Feel so bad for Luke. Well, technically, Luke is alive. We didn't see him die. I'm just kidding. You watch my breakdown. You see Lucera's falling towards the ground, and he goes into the diving position. All he's got to do is dive. He's got to just as soon as he hits the water, just pull this. Just pull your body in close to yourself, tuck your legs in, hold your breath, and he'll be straight. Like, people were saying he'll be smashed into pieces when he hits the ground. Here's the thing. He's part Velaryon. They're part seahorse. They're part fish folk. So really, he could just swim. He could just keep swimming. I'm just kidding. I'm joking. Kyle's mom is a stockholder on YouTube. What? Oh, Kyle from South Park? Thank you. Eamon wasn't bullied. He's just an a-hole. In the books. In the books. But on the TV show, he is bullied, and he's not just an a-hole. So that's why Eamon is better on the TV shows. A better character. The hand, this. How about I do that? Is it because it looks like it's saying fuck you? Oh, damn it, I just said it. Philly D says the dragon that young Eamon ran into in the caves after he got trolled with the pig. Was that just some random dragon? Because that one was pretty big as well. So technically, that was Dreamfire. That's what a lot of people think, that dragon was Dreamfire. I'm not sure if they actually confirmed it on the TV show, but that's written by Helena, and Helena is Aegon's wife. You all know Helena. It is kind of weird that Helena's dragon Dreamfire would kind of like bully Eamon like that, push him to the ground when Eamon and Helena have that connection. But that dragon who confronted Eamon when he went in there after the pig scene was Dreamfire. But then when you go to the House of the Dragon website and you pull up the Dragon Index, they have no picture of Dreamfire. So I don't know. I'm pretty sure that is Dreamfire though. Melanie Ramsel Vine says, Mark, does Laner come back in the books, and do you think he will in the show? No. She's thank you for that, Melanie, your patron member of mine as well. Laenor dies at a fair in Spicetown by Carl Corey. Carl Corey escapes across the narrow sea, but ultimately dies in the process. Laenor probably will come back in the show. Sea Smoke, when you look at the Dragon Index on the website, is technically like doesn't have a rider right now, so it's possible. That would be the only reason why I would think that they would leave him alive, is to bring him back at some point. I hope it's not to play the role of Adam of Hull. If they try to make him Adam of Hull and give him that name, that's just silly. They could just make him Laenor. They could just wait until after the war is well into its dance, right? And then bring him back that way, and he ends up riding Sea Smoke, but we ultimately don't have Adam of Hull in that whole, loyal scene with his bones being held at Raventree Hall, like it's with the Blackwoods. So yeah, I don't. The only reason why they didn't kill him in the show is to bring him back. Thank you for that, Melanie. Oh shit! We got a super chat from Chelsea. Oh, I got another super chat too. Chelsea says, I like that Vhagar disobeyed Aemon. They aren't skin changers like the Starks. They have a bond with the dragons, but they still have their own free will. Exactly. And you'll realize that the Starks don't even have 100% control over them, or the Green Seers, the Wargs, people with the blood of the First Men. They still don't have 100% control over them. If they stay in their body for too long, they'll lose themselves, much like in Animorphs. I think in Animorphs, you can only turn into an animal for 2 hours, and then you're stuck as that animal. That's why Tobias, the red-tailed hawk, was their guider, or their mentor, because he was one of the humans who turned into an animorph for too long. But yeah, it's the same thing. If you spend too long at sea, you'll drown. Bloodraven tells this to Breanne in Dance with Dragons. when Breanne is, in the Weirwood net and in the TV show in season 6, they say, like, if you do this for too long, you'll lose yourself. Breanne is skin changing humans, and that's one of the things that they're not supposed to do. Like, that's a great no. You're not supposed to do that. So it would probably be very similar if someone tried to warg the mind of a dragon, because dragons are as intelligent or more intelligent than humans. It's a no. So they can control them in what they do, but it's similar because ultimately Hodor could break the control that Breanne has over him, or Summer could break the control that Breanne has over him. The difference is that the bond between Breanne and Summer and the bond between a warg and a wolf, like Velaryon Six Skins and his animals, is different. So it depends on who the person is. So Breanne and his dragon, his direwolf Summer, grew up together, right? Direwolf has been with Breanne since he was a puppy, like Targaryens with dragon eggs, right? When Targaryens have dragon eggs put in their cribs, it makes that bond even better. So Vhagar never spent any time with Aemon until he was like 10 years old, and then he claimed him. So it's a similar thing. Breanne has a really close bond with Summer, but someone like Velaryon Six Skins, who has 6 different animals that he controls, they're all prisoners. So when Velaryon loses control over them, they kill him and they run off. So it's very similar in the sense that, yeah, you have a bond with that person. You have some kind of control over them, but ultimately they still have free will and they can still do what they want to. So the warging and the dragon riding is similar in that aspect. Thank you for that super chat, Chelsea. And then we got another one from North Must Remember. Appreciate that, buddy. So dragons are neither slaves nor fools. The beast always knows. For a rider to master his dragon, he must first master himself. Threw in some Bruce Lee stuff. Appreciate that, Northwest Remember. Let's see, we got another super chat from XO Mary Jane XXX. I love how they're actually giving us the slow decline of Rhaenyra into Mad Queen like we deserved with Daenerys. Yes. Well, in the books, the decline of Daenerys as a Mad Queen is more of a thing. In the TV show, she literally she cares about everybody. She cares too much, and then they take the last 2 people she cared about, and then she doesn't care anymore. So like that was the Daenerys Mad Queen descent on the TV show. They didn't give themselves enough episodes. If they gave them 10 episodes for season 7 and 8, it probably would have been a better arc. But they rushed it. They wanted to get out of there and go work on Star Wars. So, but yes, she has actually, you could argue that she's worse than Daenerys because she has the knowledge, the opportunity, the ability to do different, and she doesn't. She still becomes this, although to be fair, Daenerys never loses her kids one after the other, right? Like her dragons, yes, but not her actual children who she made and birthed into this world, right? That's the thing. Daenerys has that same connection, but it's never, when you have kids, it's never the same. It's not the same thing. Something that you made and you created as opposed to something that you feel like you made and you created is not the same connection. So it's going to be really dope, and ultimately Rhaenyra losing her kids is what makes her turn into Cersei, in my opinion. Dro says, did Viserys' dream stop when his dragon died? They don't specifically say, right? They just say that his dreams stop, and it could be directly that a Targaryen has to be, a dragon rider to have that ability frequently. But that's not the case, because there's Targaryens who get dragon dreams who never rode a dragon, right? Daeron the Drunken in the Duncan Egg story, he's never ride a dragon, never even seen one, but he has dragon dreams, and he has them consistently. So I think with Viserys, maybe he just stopped getting them because he had the disease, and he was treating it all the time with milk of the poppy, and they sort of just muddled his dragon dreams ability. Maybe he never really got dragon dreams to begin with, and he just got a vision, and that was just like a one-off kind of thing, that's possible. But I don't think that they necessarily stopped when Velaryon died. I'm late, but I'm here nevertheless. Welcome, Derek Stewart. Welcome, buddy. Pebbles83 says, did Daemon warg into Vermithor in episode 10? That would be cool. No, he did. No, he didn't. Targaryens cannot warg, as we know. Thanks, bro. No problem, man. No problem. I'm in great pain. Please help me. Huh? Are you all right, dude? What happened? I'm like looking, I'm trying to scan for other messages. What happened? Oh, you just messing around. All right. Shaun Blackman says, think Sir Harold Westerling is coming back in season 2. I was worried they would kill him in the Black Council and was a great actor. I hope he gets a lot more screen time in season 2. So Harold Westerling dies in 113 or 112 AC in the books. That is 17 years before the war breaks out, 16 years before the war breaks out. And he's still alive on the TV show. And he was not killed by Cole in the Green Council. So he says, come and holla at me when you have a king. So I think he will be back in season 2. And it's the best part. He's probably going to have a way bigger role as Kingsguardman to King Aegon 2. It just literally mentions that Harold Westerling dies in 112 AC. So I don't know where his arc could go. I think he'll definitely get more screen time. Graham McTavish is the actor who plays him. He's if I'm not mistaken, he's in The Witcher 2 as well. So I'm excited to see whatever they end up doing with his character. I hope he gets a lot more screen time as well. Thank you for that. And then we got one from Tracy Summers, and she's a patron of mine as well. Thank you for joining over there. She says, it's hard to sneak away from work at this time, but I'm here now. I will have to listen from the beginning later. Well, welcome, and thank you for joining us. K3G92 says, anyone notice that there was a Sirac scene in the trailer walking up close to the camera that was never shown? That's probably like with the Damon cuddling his daughter scene. There's several scenes that they'll show in teaser trailers or in like initial trailers before the show drops, where the scenes get cut on the editing room floor. They either don't fit in the pacing of the episode, or whoever's editing it thinks that we don't need that scene. So there were several scenes like that. So there was one scene in particular that I could think of where Rhaenyra was putting a cape on Alicent for Alicent and King Viserys' wedding. And they felt like we didn't need to see that. It would slow the pacing down too much. So let's just nix it. Another scene, like I just mentioned, is where Daemon is consoling his daughters after Laena walks out and gets burned by Vhagar. Daemon sits with Baela and Rhaena and he consoles them and he gives them a hug. And we've seen it in like a behind the scenes trailer on the footage on a camera where they're panning around and we see the scene, right? And then they released images of it and then they completely cut it from the episode. So that's probably what that was when they, we were talking about in the scene here. Thank you for leaving that comment. Oh shit, we got another super chat from the Rogue Prince, and he says, who will play Cregan Stark? Neville Longbottom. That's I know, sounds crazy, but I say Neville freaking Longbottom. It's different, right? Matthew Lewis, right? The guy who played Dudley was amazing in that Western movie. This dude, he's like, obviously Harry Potter fans will be like, holy shit, that's Neville Longbottom. But most people, if you've not seen Harry Potter, or if you just haven't seen it in a while, you would not know that Matthew Lewis is Neville Longbottom. I mean, all right. So let me do this. Just so you guys know what image, and I showed the image in my video so you would know that I'm not picking Neville from like the Harry Potter days. Like this Neville right here. He looks like Cregan Stark. He looks like Jon Snow. He looks like Ned Stark, Sean Bean. He looks like Rob. He looks like the dude that could play him. Like, he looks like he could be a good Cregan. Oh, and then look, he's actually like put on some muscle mass too. Dude, that's Cregan Stark right there. My opinion. You guys think that's Cregan Stark? No way. Yes, but look, that's Cregan Stark. Cregan Stark is not like a giant. You know what I mean? He doesn't have to be some massive dude. I think this guy's got acting chops. Like he was Neville freaking Longbottom. Like this is not Cregan Stark. No, that is not Cregan. But the other one I just showed is. Thank you for that super chat. Do you think season 2, this is from Jason Voorhees, the killer? You kill anybody today? You out there murdering people, innocent people, you sick bastard? He says, do you think season 2 will end with Rhaenys death? It's possible. Battle of Rook's Rest, right? Battle of Rook's Rest could be episode 9. Taking of King's Landing could be episode 10. Rook's Rest is basically the Castellan at Rook's Rest calls for help. Meleys and Rhaenys show up at the battle, it's a jump. Vhagar and Sunfire are there, and they all fight. And Vhagar crashes her body into Sunfire Melee's, knocks him to the ground, kills Melee's, burns Rhaenys. Like, Rhaenys has horrific burns all over her. Vhagar's fine. Aemon is fine. But Sunfire's wiped out for a whole year and has to walk across the battlefield eating corpses to heal itself. It's got a wing that's really fucked up. And then Aegon is so badly maimed after this, he sleeps for like 10 hours out of every 9. Out of every 10 hours, he sleeps 9, right? And he's taken out for a year. And during this time, Aemon becomes protector of the realm, and wears Aegon the Conqueror's crown. So Season 2 would be a really good way to do Rook's Rest, have Aegon go out by the end of that season, spend most of Season 3 incapacitated, healing, right? Sleeping, right? And we get shots of Sunfire every now and then ultimately what happens at the end of Season 3 is he goes to Dragonstone and prepares for when Rhaenyra has to sell her crown to make her way back to Dragonstone, and then ultimately he has Sunfire eat him. But what's really cool is the bond between Sunfire and Aegon is amazing, because Sunfire is literally at the field of Rook's Rest, living off the corpses, and then Aegon leaves men behind to give food to Sunfire, and it doesn't really know where Aegon went, because Aegon, when Rhaenyra takes King's Landing, which I think will happen in Season 2, Larys secrets away Aegon 2 to Dragonstone, because why would Rhaenyra look for Aegon 2 on Dragonstone? And then also he sends away his kids. Larry sends away Aegon's kids, and then Larry's himself disappears. So it would be, in my opinion, a good way to wrap it up. You know, Season 2, Episode 9, Battle of Rook's Rest. Season 2, Episode 10, Rhaenyra takes King's Landing. Part of the reason why she takes King's Landing is because Sunfire and Vhagar aren't there. We got a $2 super chat. Thank you for that. We got a $2 super chat from Steve Owen. Appreciate that. And they say, will they let Rhaenyra live? No. All of these characters will be dead. Neville looks like he's on the roids. Not quite, but he does look like he's strong. Neville's strong bottom. It makes it sound like he's a power bottom too, and I'm not even trying to say that, but that's funny. Neville's strong bottom. You got to understand that the power bottom is given all of the power. It's always a funny reference. Can y'all see that? Is it still streaming at least? So what is it showing right now then? What the heck? Oh man, that was crazy as hell. At least it kept streaming though. Sorry, I'm back. Y'all just saw a portal into hell. That was crazy as shit. But yeah, now I'm not even gonna share the screen again. But yeah, Neville's on the roids. Voldemort is coming. Lyric Whip says at Jon Snow rules. Thanks. Lily B45 says, why were people so surprised that Daemon can't control his violent streak? Did they buy into the notion that he's a basic romantic lead with just a few bad boy traits on the side? The guy's a killer. Yes, he literally bashed his wife's head in with the rock, right? Then goes to his niece's wedding. Then when he's confronted by his wife's cousin who knows he murdered his wife, he goes, actually, I'm going to be going to Lady of the Vale to make a claim for Runestone because that's my wife's claim and we didn't have any heirs. So technically I should be gifted Runestone. That's how crazy Daemon is, right? I knew that. I knew where this was going. I didn't see him choking Rhaenyra, but I know how crazy this motherfucker is. So the writing on the wall is all there. Daemon doesn't know what to do. He lost his wife. He lost his brother. He lost his son-in-law. Not yet, technically. All of these things have happened to him, right? And when that happens to Daenerys, she burns down King's Landing and kills millions of innocent people. When it happens to Daemon, he chokes the shit out of his wife. Terrible, terrible things to do. But ultimately, like, you can't sit here and tell me you thought that he was more like a Twilight person, right? Like his relationship with Rhaenyra was like Robert Pattinson and Bella in Twilight, right? No, Edward. That was his fucking name. Thank you. Ed. You thought it was like Edward and Bella? No. This is more like Spike and Buffy. Spike beats the shit out of Buffy, right? Buffy beats the shit out of Spike. They have a volatile relationship. Ultimately, they should never be together. That's how Daemon and Rhaenyra kind of are, and they kind of know that. And like, they literally are not a couple once the war starts. Like, he sleeps with other women immediately after his wife has a baby. Come on. Why would he do that? Well, in the TV show, it's because he choked her and she doesn't want nothing to do with his ass now, right? Like, obviously she does, but you know what I mean. Yeah. And those questions, when people say stuff like that, it gets me fired up because it's like, they made it so clear. Man's murdered his wife with a rock, and you think he actually loves Rhaenyra? Like, yes, he cares for her. He loves her, but he's not in love with her. He's in love with power. He's ultimately still feels slighted from when Viserys said, I've decided to name a new heir. And then Daemon goes, but I'm your heir. Remember that line? That's been Daemon's mentality since then. But I'm your heir. Everything that happens, he always comes back to, but I'm the heir. You know what I mean? So it's like, yeah. Edward was pretty predatory too, to be honest. What do you mean? Because he wanted to protect Bella and like she had this dog sniffing after her? Like, come on. Jacob is a pedo. He imprinted on Bella's daughter, okay, and she wasn't even born yet, right? If I was Edward, I would have choked the shit out of that weird wolf mother. Also, Stephanie Meyer, holy crap. That's weird shit. Oh, he can't control who he imprint out. But you wrote the story, so yes, you could. Let me not throw glass stones in this A Song of Ice and Fire house, because we don't need to talk about how George will set up chapters of Jon Snow sleeping with Ygritte, cut to Sansa being kidnapped in King's Landing as a 12-year-old, talking about her breasts budding, right? So George is not exactly innocent in that. Authors in general, Stephen King, right? You guys ever read the original It book? The way that they kill It is by all of them are no longer virgins. They all have to sleep with the girl of the story so that it can no longer affect them. So authors in general are weird, but yes, yeah. We're not talking about Twilight. Oh man. All right. Well, look, Twilight is for real, man. Yeah, I mean, dude, come on. I mean, like, all right, look, let's not do this. Aemon will own the season 1, episode 10 finale with the famous line in season 2. Like, by basically saying, yeah, I did it. I killed my strong nephew. I know too much about Twilight. Bro, I know most popular whatever, pop culture, fantasy, and all that. I know about all that shit. We could talk about Buffy for 2 hours. So is that your way of insulting me, SoCal Chris? You're watching a black man talk about a fantasy TV show. Are we just pointing out the obvious here? No. No arguments about Jacob from me. Yeah, dude is weird. He's a weird dude, man. You like to get choked, Crimson LP? What? All right. Tom Brady, if you're watching, I love you. The quarterback? What? Michael Scott. Which dragon do you think Rhaena will claim? Rhaena already has a dragon. It just hasn't hatched yet. There's a possibility that Rhaena could claim Vermithor. I don't exactly like it because Hugh Hammer is the one who claims Vermithor, and his betrayal will not happen if Rhaena is the one to claim Vermithor, but it's possible that Rhaena could be the version of Nettles that they're going for, and Rhaena could claim Sheepstealer. I don't necessarily like that neither, but it's possible. What would happen if Lucerys said getting married a Baratheon girl? The Targaryens and Velaryon still would have been linked, and I think Jacaerys does the same with the Stark. Yes, Sarah Snow. So that whole situation could have been avoided if when Vhagar warned Lucerys, like, hey, Aemon's in there. If he had gotten back on Arax And like someone did a really funny video where it shows Lucerys getting off of her Rex, notices Vhagar, then gets back on her Rex and flies off backwards. That would have saved the whole thing. But history is made of ifs and buts, and hindsight is 2020. So this war being an accident, chef's a fucking akisa because it is perfect. Everything started by an accident in the real world too. And nobody wanted to kill anybody, but they did it anyway. So, Children of the Forest versus the Dragons, it's coming. That would have happened in the Blood Moon show. Raylan, wait, I already answered that. Yes, she does. And I could be her Unsullied. You know who I thought? Who I could play? If they want to make a character up and make me own it, right? I only speak guttural Velaryon, right? I could be a version of Strong Belwas, right? But, okay, so Aegon to sends across the Narrow Sea for ships to come and help him fight the war. What if Rhaenyra does a similar thing and sends for people, and I'm a pit fighter from the pits of Daznak who made his way onto the ship to sort of escape that life, but I'm just a badass, strong, skinny Belwas. I can be strong, skinny Belwas, and I have a very similar story, and I just grunt the whole time, and I could even be a eunuch or whatever, man, that'd be so dope if they did something like that. But then, like, I could be just in that one scene in like the Battle of the Gullet or something, and like I get destroyed. I don't know. He's in Old Town. You referring to Dayron? Fallon Marie says the one thing that really aggravated me is Rhaenyra being docile like Viserys. I get it. She doesn't want to have a war, but the Greens ain't playing around. By the way, almost don't blame Daemon for choking. Okay, well, she said it, not me. So Rhaenyra is hesitant, but she's hesitant because of, like, similar to Viserys, but also she just had a baby. She didn't just have the baby, she had to pull the baby out of her body. Also, she knows the conversation she just had with Alicent was that her and Alicent made up. They literally made up. For the 10 years that they were at each other's necks, they made up right before Viserys dies. And as far as Alicent knows, Rhaenyra was going to be coming right back to King's Landing on Syrax. So this is why Rhaenyra is acting that way. She doesn't exactly know everything that Alicent's done. Like, she probably thinks that Sir Otto is the one who mostly did it. That's why when Sir Otto shows up in the bridge, she grabs his pen and says, "Fucking traitor," and then throws it into the ocean. So that's probably what that was about. But I agree. She does kind of need to step her game with the face that she makes in the very last episode. I think proves that. Riley Rain says, how many seasons do you think they will give us for Hot D? Do you think we'll make it to see Daenerys' mother? No. No. So you mean of the actual, like, not this iteration of the series, so not the Dance of the Dragons. So the Dance of the Dragons is going to be 4 seasons, 10 episode seasons, so that's 40 episodes. And then after that, the next thing they're probably going to show is the Black. It'll be hard to guess because actually I think the Blackfire show is going to be tied into the Egg and Dunk and Egg show, and that's like its own thing. So it's not going to be part of the title or the Hood House of the Dragon. It could be, but Steve Conrad's already working on that show. So I don't know if we have to wait, 6 years or however long until this show is finished before we get that. I'm pretty sure the next 2 years we're going to start seeing multiple A Song of Ice and Fire shows on the air at once. That I'm going to be so busy, but I cannot wait because I'm such a massive bookhead that I've been dying to see these things on screen. So 4 seasons. Do I think we'll get to make it all the way up to the Mad King? I don't think so. We could probably get a Robert's Rebellion prequel series, and we could see Daenerys' mother and father, King Aerys, the Mad King, that way. Shaman Starry Wisdom says, Sir Hunts, is Cannibal larger or smaller than Balerion and Vhagar? Smaller, although there's a potential for Cannibal to be around the same size as Vhagar, because Cannibal's been a wild dragon for a minute. Cannibal got that name because it would break into the Dragon Mount in Dragonstone and steal the hatchlings, the dragon hatchlings, and eat them. But Cannibal is like 144 years, 140 years or something. Like, Cannibal may have been around. I doubt Cannibal's going to be bigger than Vagar on this TV show, but in canon, smaller than Velaryon. I would believe smaller than Vagar because Vagar is just massive on this show. So in canon, maybe not, but on the TV show, yes. I want to see Aegon's Conquest show. Yeah, that would be dope. They have to nail that though. That casting has to be perfect. Breanne Johnson says the baby scene killed me. I literally had to do the same thing and had my baby in an elevator of a hospital because she came. So holy shit, she was fine, but it was just very realistic. Emma did great. I'm sorry you had to go through that. When my two children were born, we were ready. We were at home. We went right to the hospital, and that did not happen. That's crazy. You're a strong ass woman, my dude. Yeah, that's crazy. You know what's funny? You say that's really realistic because when I was watching that scene, I was like, bro, there's no way that any woman will pull a baby out of her coochie and not let the handmaidens help her. But I guess that is the case, and she wanted to do it herself. So thank you for that insight. Holy crap. I'm sorry that happened to you, though. Holy shit. I'm glad your baby's fine, though. That is crazy. Holy crap. I've heard of people having babies in like the back of cabs and stuff, so I guess I never really, Hulk Hogan is Aegon the Conqueror. Henry Cavill. There we go. You guys are killing it with these castings. Abdallah Al-Sahali says, could it be true that Helena's children are actually Aemons? I've seen this question a bunch. If so, ultimately win Blood and Cheese Killer Kid. That would explain a lot around Aemon's character. Okay, so to answer the first part, it's possible. Helena and Aemon is way more of a thing in the TV show than it ever was, even hinted at in the books. That's one of the things with Game of Thrones and House of the Dragon and Song of Ice and Fire is people's kids may not always be theirs. There's no DNA test back in Westeros. So it's possible, although I need some more context surrounding it. So I'm not going to 100% give a definitive answer. Maybe if they were to age the kids up a little bit and then we see, oh, they look like Aemon. If anything, I'm still on the fact that the reason why Alicent never liked Daemon is because Daemon came back to the city, hooked up with her after Helena was born, and then Aemon... Aemon is actually Matt Smith's kid. So Damon is Aemon's father. And I've had that theory since literally before we even seen who was cast as the characters to know they look similar. I just thought, oh, wow, these characters are very similar. It would make more sense if Daemon is actually the father of Aemon because Aemon is so much like him. And Aegon being, the son of Viserys makes more sense because Aegon is kind of like a really, really shitty version of his dad. So in the books, Viserys is this fat party king. And in the TV show, he's kind of like that, but not really, right? So you get Aegon being a version of his father, and you get Aemon being a version of Daemon, his actual father, because Aemon is so much like Daemon, it's ridiculous. But yeah, it's a possibility. I think we need more episodes, more seasons to come out before we can do things like that. Chris Hemsworth as Aegon the Conqueror. There you go. That's the best one. We cast it. I know a lady that didn't know she was pregnant and gave birth on the toilet. How the... Okay, giving birth on the toilet, I can see that. But how in the... do you not know you're pregnant? Oh, my God. Like, what? You carry the baby all the way 9 months, all 3 terms, and you're just like, oh, well, I'm having a baby now. Holy crap. That is nuts. Jesus. Y'all want to make me do a second live stream podcast where we talk about crazy birth stories. Tom Brady for Aegon the Conqueror, yes. NFL quarterback star Tom Brady. Didn't his wife just divorce him, Giselle? Kimberly Dupree says, I got that before I even saw her interview. What's that? E Will Kill says, yo, brother, I'm at work. Just noticed Sir Hunts is live. Let's go. Work day just got better. Hell yeah. And we're actually kind of wrapping up the stream, but don't worry. We've been going on for an hour and a half, and you can go back and rewatch, my dude. I want Melanie to respond. How did that person not know they were pregnant for 9 months? Don't ask me, man. Unreal. True, though. Imagine her husband's face when he came home. How did he not notice? How did he not notice? I was like, what the fuck? That's so crazy. Oh, man. I'd love to see more Song of Ice and Fire shows. Me too, man. Me too. Henry Cavill already has the wig. Yeah, he does. I would want Cavill, if he was seriously going to play anybody in this show, Hugh Hammer. Hugh Hammer. Just makes the most sense. Give him the same wig, obviously, that he has in The Witcher. Like, not the same wig, but give him the Targaryen hair. But Hugh Hammer, make his arc over 4 or 5 episodes, and then give Silverwing to Rhaena and have her be the other dragon seed, and they only get betrayed by Hugh Hammer, right? That is a mutilation of the source material. But if it makes Rhaena have a bigger role, ride Vermithor, that's all. Or I'm sorry, ride Silverwing, that's awesome. Silverwing is Queen Alicent's mount. So like she was like Fat Walda size and didn't know. Yeah, but still, like you have to pay attention to your body. Like you haven't had a period in 9 months. Your boobs are really sore. You're really wet down there. Like oh my god, how do you not know that? That's insane. Adrian Bauer is Cregan Stark. Let's see who's Adrian Bauer. Too old. Cregan is the same age as Jace. Like Rainier literally says Cregan is a similar age of you, so he's got to be younger. So that's why I was saying Neville. Neville is that's the perfect Neville. You need to get your ass in there. And guess what? Neville Longbottom already has a working relationship with HBO. Warner Brothers made Harry Potter. Neville is the prince who was promised in Harry Potter. Neville is the true hero, okay? All right. The sword of Gryffindor showed up to him. If I'm not mistaken, his parents died. Well, I don't want to get too much into Harry Potter stuff. Now Henry Cavill is no. We've already seen what Mark Eddy looks like. That wouldn't work. You don't look anything like Mark Eddy. Who is your top 5 favorite A Song of Ice and Fire warriors in order? So in order of least to greatest. All right. Sanduk the Shadow, number 1. Buddy had twin Valyrian steel Erex and was a giant badass fighter. He becomes a bodyguard for Aegon III. Number 1. Number 2, Jaime Lannister. Jaime, before he gets his hand cut off, is the most badass knight in the 7 Kingdoms. He's one of the youngest to join the Kingsguard, and also usually people with as much power and as much of a familial name as Jaime Lannister, usually when a character has that much, they ain't shit. But Jaime is really about that life. And also his arc is my favorite in A Song of Ice and Fire. He starts out as this dude that you hear about from other characters' perspectives. And then when you actually do read his thoughts, you're like, oh, this is one of the knightliest knights in all of the story. He's just on the wrong side. So Jaime, number 2. Number 1, Sanduk the Shadow. Number 3, this one. People are going to be right back. All right, sorry about that, y'all. God. Woo! All right. Sanduk the Shadow, Jaime Lannister. Third one would probably be Jon Snow. Jon Snow, like obviously he kills White Walkers. He's a badass fighter. He has enough prowess to defeat several different individuals when the wildlings are seizing Castle Black and trying to come over to the wall, right? And then also he, if I'm not mistaken, like even though Ghost bites Corn Half Hand's leg, and that's why Jon Snow is able to defeat him, Jon probably would have had a pretty strong chance of fighting someone like him. And he's like one of the best warriors in the Night's Watch. So Jon Snow is a pretty badass dude. And also Jon's really strong. Jon is able to pull up this stake that's in the ground that's got a Night's Watch member impaled on it. Jon is able to lift the stake up out of the ground by himself. And it's noted in the books that when that happens, most of the other Night's Watch members have to have several different people helping them do that. So Jon Snow, number 3. Sanduck the Shadow, number 1. Jaime Lannister, number 2. Jon Snow, number 3. Red Rob Rivers, number 4. He's an archer. Let's add in some diversity. Red Rob Rivers is the dude who kills Kristen Cole. He puts 3 arrows in him. And then also he's like the greatest archer in the Riverlands, right? So we Sanduck the Shadow, Jaime Lannister, Jon Snow, Red Rob Rivers. And then number 5 probably be, is really easy, Strong Belly Belwas. I call my daughter Strong Belly. Her name's Bella. But Strong Belwas. The man eats liver and onions. He should have been number 1, but Sanduck the Shadow, another black man, was number 1 in my top 5 fighters. It's crazy. George knows how to describe an awesome warrior, right? So Strong Belly Belwas eats mostly liver and onions. He's this big fat dude. And for the most part, until we see him fight, he just talks a lot of shit, right? So Daenerys is over in Essos conquering the cities. And then ultimately she gets to this one city where they send out their champion and they're sort of egging her along. And she runs through the choices. She's like, I can't send out Barristan Selmy. He's the Lord Commander of my Kingsguard. I can't send out Daario Naharis because he's the leader of the Second Sons and the Storm Crows. And if he dies, well, then I lose those sellsword companies. And then ultimately she's like, let me send out Strong Belly Belwas because he literally just talks shit and eats. And then he goes out and fights this champion. He ends up basically the dude charges him on horseback and Strong Belwas just moves out of the way. Right. And then he does it again. And then he does it again. And he does it like 6 times. Right. This guy keeps riding past him and Strong Belly Belwas just moving out of the way quick as fuck. And then finally he clips the horse, drags the guy to the ground, murders him. He allows the dude to cut him 1 time on the stomach. And then he kills him and then shits all over his body in front of the city. This guy was the champion of that city. And Daenerys watches all this and she's like, oh my God, he's actually a badass. Right. So number 1, Sanduck the Shadow. Number 2, Jaime Lannister. Number 3, Jon Snow. Number 4, Red Rob Rivers. And number 5, Strong Belwas. And that's going to be a good point to wrap this episode up. I want to thank you all so much for watching. It was an hour and 40 minutes. I'm going to be live at the same time next week. Please come and join me. Please slap a like on this video. Please consider checking out my Patreon. This video has been demonetized, so I made no money off of this hour live stream. The only money that I'll make is from anybody that joined my Patreon or anybody that watched some other videos and my videos played ads while that was happening. I sound like a... Thank you for watching. Long night, Zeldrizas Buzdari, Ixos Tower. Super special shout out to every single member of my Patreon family. Thank you for submitting those questions and topics, and hopefully you all were satisfied by my answers. Long night. Thank you for watching this live and then also afterwards. Oh yeah, let me do a quick shout out to every single person in the chat right now. Thank you for watching this live. Fallon Marie, Killer X, Mad Jack, Melanie Ramsel, Melanie Vine, Mink 1973, Knuckles, Riley Rains, Shaman Starry Wisdom, The North Must Remember, YG Knight, X Knight X, Crystal Haggins, Jason Voorhees, and anybody else that is watching but is not currently typing in the chat. Thank you all so much for watching. Along night, Zeldrizas Buzdari, Ixos Tower.